Welcome to Locked On NBA. On today's show, Toronto rallies in New York City. City Edition jerseys are revealed, and the Celtics lose their grip against the Bulls. It's all coming up next.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, it's a Locked On NBA Tuesday. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. However you may be listening, YouTube, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast, thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. On today's show, there may be in Portland, Toronto rallies in New York, and we critique some awful, truly awful City Edition jerseys. But we begin today's show with our game of the night in Boston, where the Bulls rallied from 19 points down thanks to DeMar DeRozan's 37 points and a 38-9 run to close the game and earn a 128-114 win over the Celtics. While DeRozan was solid throughout the night, Chicago's decisive run can be traced back to Zach LaVine's emergence. After scoring just 4 points on 1 for 6 shooting, and David texting me, "Hey, what's up with Zach LaVine in the first half?" He catches fire in the second half, scoring 22 points on 8 for 14 shooting. David, what did you make of the Bulls' rally to win that game?
I thought it was phenomenal. I did not expect much from this game. I actually clicked off of it after I saw LaVine kind of in the tank at that point. I saw Jaylen Brown having a phenomenal night. He was single-handedly leading a Boston comeback. They were pulling away from the Bulls. I thought there was no chance of them coming back, and then all of a sudden they just flipped a switch. I'm starting to become a believer. I know you can make the argument that the Bulls haven't faced particularly tough competition, and you could probably put Boston in that same category. They're not particularly great at just 2-5. So they've obviously been struggling this season, but it's still a good game. They're starting to show the beginnings of an identity, a real defensive presence, and DeRozan has been quietly under the radar and very, very good in his role in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, everything seems to be clicking into place. Caruso is giving them an identity off the bench too, and they've got you mentioned identity there, and it feels like it's Billy Donovan's identity, that kind of northeastern sort of tough mentality. Again, coming back from 19 points down in Boston to beat a Celtics team, which off to a rocky start. We're going to talk about the Celtics here in a minute, but to me, they haven't had the hardest schedule. They beat Detroit twice. They beat the Pelicans. They played the Raptors on a night where they didn't have a lot of their guys, and obviously this Boston game. But look, man, a win's a win, and it feels like things are clicking into place there with that starting group. I do have my questions, right? Like defensively, I still have my concerns. It felt like when Boston was up 19 points, and it felt like a game that you wanted to click off of. It's because the Celtics just ran Nikola Vucevic into every single pick and roll imaginable, and you just get them involved in the play. And it felt like Chicago has a hard time because now you're asking DeRozan, LaVine to help off the weak side. And if Lonzo Ball is the only guy who's a top defender on that entire team, I have my questions about how good this team could be defensively going forward. But man, when you've got DeRozan dropping 30 plus, when you've got LaVine able to combust in any moment and just single-handedly spur an entire run, one of the most dominant single runs we've seen in the NBA this entire season, I don't know. There's just a lot of different options for them offensively, and sometimes that's just enough, right? You've got DeRozan; he's a great innings eater. You got LaVine; he's a legit all-star scorer, and you've got enough talent there that I'm not all the way there with Bulls or a title team, but I like them as a playoff team in the Eastern Conference, like a pretty solid one.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, we can't hold it against them for winning the games they're supposed to win. I think we'd be a lot more critical if they were 3-4 at this point. But obviously, the fact that they have facing subpar competition shouldn't be held against them. They're beating them, maybe not necessarily in convincing fashion, but today's comeback was a step in the right direction. The ability to face adversity, to recognize that there are issues there. And like you said, LaVine, such a huge X factor because when his offense is dialed up, he's basically unstoppable. And we saw that tonight in the fourth quarter.
Meanwhile, Celtics dropped to 2-5. They're losers now of 3 straight. This one should count double because it was that bad of a loss at home, giving up that kind of lead. There were moments where Jaylen Brown looks dominant in that game. Moments where Jayson Tatum is showing all the promise that you think. Robert Williams got hurt in that second half, but he ended up coming back to the game. Celtics fans, you can't blame that loss on Robert Williams missing a few minutes. It just doesn't work that way. Again, moments where they look great. They were up 19 points against a solid team in Chicago, but this is like whatever identity we were just talking about with Billy Donovan, where they're gritty and they play hard. It's whatever the opposite of that. That's what's happening for the Celtics right now. you like this team coming into the season. What do you think about them now?
I think they're really struggling to find any kind of consistency. Their bench has been a lot weaker than a lot of people, myself included, expected to be. I thought Josh Richardson would be able to provide some kind of spark. That just hasn't happened. 24 total points from their bench tonight, just woeful. I know a lot of that was because Brown played heavy minutes at 34. Tatum played 36 minutes. They were scoring. But look, let's not let Tatum off the hook. Obviously, he's a superstar, but 8 of 22 isn't going to get it done. 1 of 4 from 3-point range, even missing some free throws down the stretch. Al Horford, 3 of 7 from the line. You can't give up those points in a close game like this, especially when you see the Bulls breathing down your neck. So I think there are issues there. I'm starting to wonder if there's too much pressure on Tatum. I'm not sure if his role might need to change to some degree. Maybe it's time to turn the ball over to Brown. I know you like the idea of a 1-2 punch, but at this point in time, I'm not sure what you're getting out of Tatum on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to take that leap, right? And this is what we've been sort of waiting on with him. And you kind of go through the Kyrie Irvings to the Dennis Schroeders to our and all those players, the Kemba Walkers, all these other point guards,
Right.
and now it's not. You don't have that right now. Like I said, you have Dennis Schroeder. You're starting Marcus Smart. I think it works. It makes sense if Jaylen Brown and more so Jayson Tatum are ready to take that leap. Jayson Tatum needs to be a bona fide top 12 guy in the NBA if the Celtics are going to get to where they want to be, because otherwise there is depth there, there's potential there, but they are at their best, Tatum and Brown, when they're getting to the basket. I thought it was a little like there were moments where Jaylen Brown is using that shoulder and getting to the rim. Jayson Tatum is using that shiftiness that he has off the dribble and that improved handle that he's had over the last couple of years to get to the basket. But both of them only getting to the line a couple of times during this game. And this team, this Celtics team is starting to remind me a lot of last year's Clippers team, where they're going to be so live and die by the three. And it's a little problematic for me because last year's Clippers team was one of the all-time great three-point shooting teams, but they have a lot of three-point shooters on that team. Tatum tonight 1 for 4. You mentioned Al Horford 3 for 7, and he's the guy that's sort of leading your team in three-point shooting. Marcus Smart is still going to chuck him up, right? And he's gotten better, but he's not a knockdown three-point shooter by any stretch. They just don't have the personnel for that. And I don't know that it's by design. It just feels like Tatum and Brown would rather do that perimeter hokey pokey stuff as opposed to just get to the basket and score through contact, because that's what I think they're best at, but they've been reluctant to do it consistently.
Well, I know we've been kind of talking about the free throw officiating and everything else, and I know a lot of fans want to point to that as a problem around the league. Some people actually like it. I think the games have been flowing a little bit more smoothly. But at the same time, a player like Tatum, who was relying so heavily on getting to the line, only 4 free throw attempts, I think he's thrown off a little bit. There were moments there where even when they were down when they were actually up by a significant margin there, he was just still looking for contact. He was not looking to finish at the rim. He was just looking to see whether or not he'd get the call. Wasn't getting it. It was a little bit frustrating, I'm sure, for Celtics fans. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never been quite sold on his ability to take that next leap because we keep expecting it and we just haven't seen him. I know there were issues last year with COVID. At the same time, the assumption is that he's fully healthy. If that's the case, he just hasn't shown it to me anyway.
Celtics have not yet won a game in Boston. That's not a winning formula to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. We have updates from around the NBA and wonder if it's Dame's time to leave Portland. But first, let's talk about Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. And easy is really what they're all about. As fantasy props and pick'ems get more and more popular, Prize Picks is making it easy for you to get involved. They do that with the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, offering more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. This includes the Prize Picks Power Play. Here's how it works. Predict the over-under on a player's fantasy production, and you can win up to 10x on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected fantasy totals. If you are a total sports junkie, Prize Picks even allows mixed sports entry. For example, you could take the over on LeBron's score combined with the under on Patrick Mahomes in the same entry. And when you use the promo code NBA, you're going to get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Again, just use that promo code NBA. Do it all using the award-winning app on the Apple App Store or Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Plus, Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use that promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All right, thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, so please do subscribe. It's time to get to some scores from around the league. David, start us off.
The Cavaliers, who led by as many as 19 points, held off a late Hornets rally and won in Charlotte 113 to 110. Cavs center Jared Allen led the way with 24 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. LaMelo Ball scored 30, including a big three to make it a one-possession game with less than a minute to go. But Charlotte couldn't pull it out. The Cavs moved to 4-4, while the Hornets dropped to 5-3.
The Pacers snapped a 4-game losing streak with a blowout win over the Spurs. Domantas Sabonis finished with 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists. 6 total Pacers finished in double figures in Indiana's 131 to 118 rout.
Trae Young scored 26 points and lead the Hawks to 118-111 win over the Wizards. Bradley Beal led Washington with 24 points, while Kyle Kuzma added 18. But Atlanta got double-digit scoring nights from 7 different players, including Cam Reddish and Danilo Gallinari off the bench.
Ja Morant continues to sizzle as he finished with 26 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds to lead the Grizzlies to a 106-97 win over the Nuggets. Reigning MVP Nikola Jokic had 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists, but Memphis got 43 points off its bench to improve to 4-3.
Cole Anthony scoring run continued in the Magic's 115-97 win over the Timberwolves. Anthony's been great with a season-high 31 points. He now has scored 24 or more points in 4 of Orlando's first 8 games, and Rookie of the Year candidate Franz Wagner continues to impress as well.
Definitely not Mo Wagner. He didn't have a great rookie year. Without Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, or Ben Simmons, the 76ers beat the Portland Trailblazers 113 to 103, handing the Trailblazers their second loss in as many nights. Damian Lillard continues to struggle from the field, scoring just 20 points on 7 for 20 shooting. Seth Curry and Jordan Niang combined for 44 points for Philly. Embiid, who had been dealing with this lingering knee issue in the early goings of this season, had an MRI over the weekend, according to ESPN, that revealed no concerns. Meanwhile, there could be concerns for Portland, who fall to 3-4 on the season and are falling behind fast in the Western Conference standings. Of course, it's very early in the season, but is it too early, David, to wonder about Damian Lillard's future there?
I don't think there's any cause for concern, to be honest with you. I think it might be a little too early. I don't think at this point, even if they really wind up, having a terrible season, I think he's just gone on the record too often as saying that he doesn't want to leave Portland. If anything, a move is going to come next year. I know it's fun to talk about the potential of him forcing a trade. I just don't see it. I don't think you can say as often as he has, look, I have no intention of leaving. I want to stay. Unless he stages some kind of massive coup or something like that, just storms into the Neil Olshey's office and demands a trade behind the scenes somehow where nobody finds out about it. It's never leaked to Chris Haynes or anybody else. I just can't see how he could do a complete 180 in the middle of the season. It's frustrating. And look, Lillard was just as responsible as anybody else for their loss tonight. He has really struggled this season. He just hasn't seemed to find a groove. I'm not sure, again, if it's the officiating. Some people are theorizing whether or not he might be injured. Nothing's been disclosed. But at this point, he can't blame anyone else. They brought in the coach he wanted. They made some changes, however lackluster they might be. This is a revamped roster. You're kind of stuck with it at this point. You can't make any kind of massive changes, I think. I know it's easy to say, oh, just kind of plug them and ship over to Philadelphia in exchange for Ben Simmons, but I don't see any reason why either of those teams would make that trade.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason now would be basically, like you said, Lillard going to that front office and demanding a trade, or Portland just being like, look, we've kind of hit a wall with this group, and it just feels like there's nothing left for us to do here. Now, yes, it's very early. They've played 5-6 games, whatever it is now. And it's way too early to start talking about trading Damian Lillard. But this was supposed to be like Neil Olshey basically said, hey, we're locked into this roster for better or worse. Like we can add a Larry Nance or something like that, but we can't really make huge sweeping changes other than the head coach. So Terry Stotts is out. Chauncey Billups comes in. He's supposed to rally this team, fix this defense, do all of these things. And so far, I haven't seen any of that, right? This is not just Damian Lillard struggling. There's a lot of things that are still flawed with this entire roster. And it feels like all of this is just rearranging deck chairs. And at some point, something's got to give. I don't know if that's Damian Lillard making a move. I don't know if that's Portland deciding to just blow this thing up and go in a younger, different direction with Ben Simmons or something like that. I don't know. But the schedule doesn't exactly get a whole lot easier for them either. Now, look, I don't mean to overreact. They lost 2 games on a back-to-back set. But, man, You're losing in Charlotte. And Charlotte's a good team, but you're supposed to beat those kinds of teams. Philadelphia, without their three best players, like I know it's a second night of a back-to-back, but come on, man, you got to do something there. Now you're going on Wednesday to Cleveland. Cleveland's been frisky, kind of interesting here. They got a nice win tonight. Then you play Indiana. You get them at home. Then you got the Lakers, then the Clippers, and then Phoenix. I mean, that's not an easy schedule. You get Houston, that's okay, but then Denver and Toronto after that. Like you're talking about if front offices tend to make some sort of conclusion about a roster after about 20 games, Portland could really be kind of on the outside looking in and really deep there in the Western Conference standings. And like I said, at that point, how could you not make some sort of change? Maybe it's not a Damian Lillard change, but it's got to be something.
Yeah, I guess we've been struggling to see exactly what kind of change can be made. I guess CJ McCollum is the most likely answer, but I just don't see any kind of deal that makes a lot of sense for Portland.
Especially since he's been playing better than Dame.
Right. Well, there's that too. Yeah. Look, it's frustrating. This is the game that you have to win if you're a Portland fan. And now I kind of see this as a turning point, to be honest with you. Some of the wins maybe a little bit more excusable. You can look at the back-to-back set and say maybe that's a built-in excuse. This isn't it. Back-to-back or not, you missed Danny Green he only played like 19 minutes because of injury, and Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, all those out. Like you can't lose to George Nang. I mean, that's as good a shooter as he is. As many times as he had a wide open look, that's a problem. You can't get dominated by Andre Drummond, and this is up to Lillard now. If he wants to turn this around, if he wants to show his commitment to this team, he has to find a way to instill some leadership, lead by example on the court, have a big game, have some kind of a breakout, because it's necessary. This team needs him to be the superstar of old, the Dame Lillard that we're so used to seeing.
Let's shift gears a little bit. OG Anunoby scored 36 points as the Raptors rallied from 15 points down to beat the Knicks 113-104 at Madison Square Garden. Gary Trent Jr. added 26 points, and Toronto used a 38-22 third quarter to flip this game around. The Knicks were led by RJ Barrett's 27 points. Now, don't look now, but Toronto is 5-3. They're the winners of 4 straight games, and Pascal Siakam is still working his way back after offseason surgery. So, David, what do you make of these young Raptors?
Well, I think there's still some inconsistency there. I don't think we're quite ready to say they're taking a leap. I think OG Anunoby I think he's been phenomenal. I said before the season that I thought he had all-star potential. He's certainly been showing that. Maybe this is also a little indicative of the fact that the Knicks aren't as good as a lot of people would like them to be. Sorry, Bing Bong notwithstanding, I don't know that they're necessarily going to make a lot of a lot of noise in the Eastern Conference. But as far as the Raptors are concerned, look, they got some poor performances from Precious Achiuwa. He didn't really stand out much. Their bench still isn't particularly great. I imagine when Siakam comes back, maybe that'll add a significant boost there to the starting lineup, obviously, but also allow some bench players to kind of stand up and make some big scoring nights themselves. I like their potential. I'm not sure that it really matters ultimately. I don't think as good as they've been for those 5 wins, I don't see them as a really realistic playoff contender. Right. They're more just a kind of a sweep team, maybe a gentleman's sweep if they can find some way to win. You can't discount the fact that they have championship experience. But I like Anunoby specifically. I think his growth has really stood out this season. He's always been an all-NBA defender. He's been a great shooter over the last couple of seasons, and he's just taken his ability to create his own offense to another level that nobody really expected.
I mean, yeah, if he's playing like this or even close to this for the rest of the season, you predicted, I think, early going into the season that he'll make his first All-Star game, right? And if that's the kind of play that they're going to be getting, then yeah, I think Toronto's season is very different. And it is you're still got Goran Dragic, who can eventually work his way into the rotation, or maybe you move him for some other sort of piece. Like we said, Siakam is going to come back, and now you've got a double-double type guy filling out that rotation. Yeah, I don't think Toronto's going to win a championship this year, but if you consider where they were last year, Scotty Barnes didn't even play tonight. Like, they've got a lot of dudes. Yeah, I think this is a team that if they were to just make the first round, and yeah, what if you get swept? Who cares? But just bouncing back from that year from hell where you had to play in Tampa, of all places, to then being able to get back into the postseason and sort of recuperate some of that those good vibes and that momentum that you had coming off that 2019 finals. Yeah, I think that would be a win for this team, no doubt about it.
Are they still a young team? Like, that's the whole thing.
I mean, they are now.
Well, they've got young players, but I mean,
how do you define a young team?
Well, I mean, they've got some young players, but I mean, they
Right.
also have like veterans on there. Siakam isn't particularly young. Van Vliet isn't young at this point. I mean, they've proven they've been here for a few years already. This is the core, basically, of the same group that won them a championship a few seasons ago, with the exception of Cal Lowry and Marcus All. But still, I mean, is this in your eyes still a young team? Is there because they?
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about them before the season as being a team that kind of in between. They've got those veterans. They've been proven already as a championship core. And they're still developing young players, but I still kind of see them as somewhere in between and having to take this year to kind of figure out where they are as far as their development time frame is concerned.
I mean, Van Vliet's 27, and he's kind of the leader on that offense right now. Yeah, I still think like they're pretty young relative to some of these other teams. I mean, you just look at the starting lineup. You got Gary Trent Jr., Anunoby, Achua, Van Vliet. You got Scotty Barnes coming off the bench. You got Malachi Flynn coming off the bench. I mean, you just got a lot of young players playing really important roles. I don't know. I would consider them young, especially compared to some of these other teams in the East.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to which teams nailed their City Edition jerseys and which teams didn't. Plus, an interesting stat that tells you all you need to know about these Lakers early on in the season. This is Locked On NBA. David, tell them about Shopify.
Well, in case you don't know, Shopify is a complete commerce platform that lets you start, grow, and manage a business. The subscription based software allows anyone to set up an online store to sell their products. Shopify store owners can also sell in physical locations using Shopify POS, our point of sale app, and accompanying hardware. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big businesses. So upstarts, startups, and established business alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility, and Shopify helps you make your entrepreneurial dreams come true. Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale, reaching customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. It allows you to gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond. Go to shopify.com/lockedonnba, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/lockedonnba right now. That's shopify.com/lockedonnba. And guess what? We're back and better than ever, baby. That's right. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use our promo code Locked On to receive your bonus from basketball to football, baseball's postseason, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And don't forget to use that promo code Locked On.
All right, back here with Locked On NBA. Teams on Monday unveiled their City Edition jerseys for the season, and let's just say some of them knocked it out of the park, while others appear to have just phoned it in. So, David, here's what we're going to do. We are going to play a game called Hot or Not. You and I have taken a sampling of some of the jerseys that are most interesting to us, and we're basically going to go through and say whether or not these jerseys are hot or whether or not they are not. David, take us through your first one.
Well, the jersey I like best, it's got to be the Atlanta Hawks. I just, the colors really stand out to me. I love the yellow. I'm partial to that logo from I want to say it was the 90s or early aughts. I can't recall exactly what it was that they displayed it, but it's just a nice flare, a nice switch from what they used to run. I like the yellow. I think it pops. I think their court design looks really good. It's just a really nice, clean jersey with good, simple color schemes that I appreciate.
Yeah, man, that's to me one of the ones that stand out. You love the big bird, right? Just the big bird always works. It's right across the chest. There were a few that I thought tried to channel some of that early aughts 90s vibe, and one of the ones that I really, really enjoyed was the Timberwolves for that same reason. Like you've got that old Timberwolves Kevin Garnett font. I like the detail of the stripes on the sides. I think with the full uniform, with the shorts and everything, it just looks really clean, really sick, and I, double making it even better is the fact that Anthony Edwards is a ton of fun to watch. Karl Anthony Towns is back off of a really down season with a lot of adversity they had to go through. D'Angelo Russell is making, buzzer-beating shots in fourth quarters again. The Timberwolves are fun to watch, and they're going to be even more fun to watch in these jerseys.
Yeah, but that's not fair. You can't say that jerseys are fun just because the team happens to be more fun. If there was the same crappy team they've been over the last 15 years, you'd still have to get stuck with these jerseys regardless.
I like the jerseys anyway.
They're a Wolf team in name only. Like, there's nothing even showing a hint of Wolf on this jersey. Come on.
You want characters.
There's a logo somewhere on these shorts, perhaps, but these jerseys, to me, it sure is blue. I mean, that's about it. That's all I can say. It's clean.
You got not.
It's solid. Yeah, to me, definitely not.
Wow. All right, well, take us through your next one then.
I like the Spurs one at first. I got to be honest with you. I told you before we started recording, I mentioned this was a jersey I liked. Then I kind of started looking through some pictures there of the color scheme as players were wearing it, Derek White and others. And I got to say, turned into a quick knot for me, a little too creamsicle. I at first I liked the color pop, then I saw it on players and it kind of looked a little too creamsicle for my taste. I just don't see it working for anybody.
I think you needed a little bit more contrast. Maybe you did I understand why they went with this. It's very old school. I get it, but maybe doing like something different, like a black with these other bright colors, I thought would have been kind of cool. But
maybe even if they had flipped the color scheme, if they had gone mostly blue with white on the side, I think that would have worked out a lot better.
I'm gonna go right here to Toronto. This is a big knot for me, David. I love the idea of the character, right? The Big Bird in Atlanta. I love anything that's kind of channeling these like these 90s, early aughts vibes. And Toronto with the big Raptor, you think about that great purple jersey that they had, those Vince Carter jerseys, but this ain't it, man. This isn't that great purple jersey. This is that weird, I don't know what it is about the Raptors trying to force this black and gold as these like secondary color schemes. Like it's too much. It's too much bowing at the altar at Drake for me. These are the OVO colors. It's the only reason he's involved. I don't know if Drake still has his made-up marketing position with the team or not, but just stop trying to make black and gold a thing. You have these awesome purple colors that you've basically done away with for the red and that basic red and black scheme. I think Toronto's jerseys, their normal jerseys right now are fine, but you had an opportunity here to go completely old school. Maybe you could just go black and purple and gold if you really want to use gold all that much, but not missing this opportunity to involve any purple, any of that old school Raptors purple. I just thought you missed the boat on this one. So I got not hot for the Raptors.
I'm right there with you. One team that I think really did a good job of channeling some of their past and bringing about some flair for the future of the Charlotte Hornets. They did a really, really nice job, I think, using the honeycomb scheme of their great court design from the 90s. Just a great mix of history and flashy colors, too. I think they look really sharp, nice and clean look. Really great jersey. That's all I can say. And yes, a slightly more fun team that makes it more interesting to watch in these jerseys, I suppose.
I love like the gradient. Talking about like the players that play, like that gradient kind of gives you that feel of a fast break, right? Like you're going from one place to another. And I love that the stripes here are different colors. I'm sure there's some sort of like weird marketing round table symbolism to that, but I don't know what it is. I don't really care. I just think it looks cool. All right. The Houston Rockets. I'm going to be quick on this one. Hot. I love these kind of channeling that old school. I love like that broken, like the broken streaks going across there. Again, kind of getting those old school vibes, and you could just picture Jalen Green flying through the air in this. And I love like that navy with the red, the Houston city name just kind of slanted there. You just got this like rising feeling all about it. I just thought it was a well executed concept, sweet, simple, sweet, and it works to me on all levels.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't. To me, it doesn't stand out. A little Coutinho Mobley for my taste. Steve Francis, I get it. A lot of fun in those. Yeah, well, I don't know.
Those are hot.
I mean, look. Yeah, well, who else? Let's see.
Take me to Orlando because you and I disagree here.
Yeah, I like the Orlando Magic. I don't. I mean, the orange is a color that just to me really stands out. I think it's nice. I don't know. I'm not sure about the stars along the sides there. That was a little bit too much. I know they're trying to incorporate Disney as a big sponsorship partner there. I just don't necessarily see it. I think the orange stripes are okay. I like the sides and the orange color. I like the orange court design. I think that really pops too. This is a team that's willing to take a chance at least and go away from their usual color scheme to try something different. So many of these jerseys are like, I couldn't tell that they were city edition or just like your every other Tuesday kind of edition. Because to be honest with you, they just didn't do anything at all.
To the sides of Orlando here, Utah and Phoenix, like But
Yeah.
you didn't do anything. Like, all right, Utah, I understand you fell in love with this gradient thing, but Jesus, like, try something new. With the Magic, the difference was with Utah, the gradient worked the first time, right? Like,
Mhm.
and so I understand why you want to double down on that. With Orlando, those first orange and gray ones were so awful, so not hot that I felt like you just sort of blew your chance at getting to incorporate orange. Like, you lost it on the first swing. You just don't get to come back and try to make orange a thing. I'm sorry, you only get to be new once. And it's not working for me. And you want to know how all these stars are on the jersey? It's because they're getting knocked out every game, and they end up just seeing stars after every match. So that's why these are perfect for them. But why I have a not for them? I don't know why they're trying to make it a thing. All right, I got one more for you. I
All
got
right.
two more. I got two more. I'm
All
going
right.
to be quick with this one. The Thunder, do better. Do better. Here's a new rule. No more all whites, no more all blacks. Like, that's a complete cop out. As far as they're like, hey, we don't even know what our colors are going to be, so let's just not have any. No colors.
Let's
Like,
not
I
try
just
anything.
so the Thunder have historically had the worst alternate jerseys. They can't figure it out. Whoever's in that department needs to really look in the mirror and figure out what they're doing, because these are awful, terrible. They look like pillowcase pajamas. I don't get it. And the other one is New Orleans. Like, this is classic. Like, hey, by the way, NBA teams, your city edition jerseys are due tomorrow. Send us what you have. And the Pelicans were just like, oh my God, I forgot we had to do that. And they just took their regular white Pelicans jersey that just says Pelicans on the front, or New Orleans or whatever is on the front. I think it's New Orleans on the front. And they're like, well, let's just shorten that, baby. Throw it on NOLA, and like, boom, it's kind of slang. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. And they just sent that in. It was like dog ate my homework style jerseys. These are awful. If you're a Pelicans fan, and I don't know if any are still out there, but if you are one, sorry, Jake Madison, like, you've got to be disappointed with this. Like, you have to be disappointed with this. You can't even tell the difference if somebody's looking at the back, if it's the city edition one or if just a regular Zion Williamson jersey.
Yeah, it needs more Pelicans on the jersey too. You can't have a Pelicans jersey without an actual Pelican on it.
Have a big Pelican on there. Now we're talking. Any other
That's a
ones
win
we
right
do
there.
before we move on?
I mean, we have to shout out to Heat. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are on the fence about it, but we talked about on Locked On Heat, it's worth bearing worth mentioning again that they're being very innovative. At the very least, this is a jersey that's willing to take a chance. The players can decide whatever numbers, styles that they want on their jerseys. Fans can order very unique combinations of numbers as well for their jerseys. So I think that kind of stands out. And the one next to it, the Knicks, to me, I like the classic trim. Black, not a traditional color for New York, but the fact that they were able to incorporate the numbers of retired player jerseys on the waistband of their shorts, I think is a really nice touch, kind of bringing back a little bit of that Knicks history.
Let us know what you guys think in the YouTube comments. Do you disagree with our hot or nots? Do you have one that we didn't talk about that we should have? Let us know. Subscribe to Locked On NBA on YouTube and leave a comment for us in the comments section. All right, David, that's it for hot or not. Let's get to tonight's game against between the Lakers and the Rockets. No, it's not the TNT games. It's not Mavericks Heat. It's not the other one that's the late night game, which I'm already forgetting. But it is a game that is worth watching because, to me, I still think that how the Lakers incorporate Russell Westbrook is the biggest storyline early on in this NBA season, bigger to me than even Ben Simmons and everything that's going on there, because how this turns out could swing the championship this year. I mean, I really think it's of that degree of importance. And I was looking up some stuff, and I found just a stat. And I'm not breaking news here, but the fact that LeBron James is averaging 9 3-pointers per game, to me, is indicative of exactly where this Russell Westbrook experiment has gone and where it is going, because this would be by far the most threes that LeBron averages in a season. Over the last 3 years, he's averaged about 6 3-pointers a game. He's taking about 9. On one hand, you could say, great, LeBron is modernizing his game as he ages, and that's good. And he's become basically a knockdown three-point shooter. You really do trust him from beyond the arc at this point. But that is not what LeBron is best at. And to me, what it says is that he is changing his game. He has taken it upon himself to change his game so much. He's the one that needs to space the floor, because we know that Russell Westbrook ain't going to do it. And Anthony Davis is only going to be in the lineup twice out of every 3 nights or something like that. So this is not early on. Again, it's not having the intended effects that it has. Instead, you've just got LeBron now playing out of his comfort zone in order to facilitate these other guys around him. And the supporting cast has been hurt and has not been great. And the early returns on this Lakers experiment have not been good.
I will say that from a Lakers fan perspective, and maybe I'm wrong here, I think the argument is that this is exactly what you want. You bring in Westbrook specifically because he's a guy who can handle the ball, take some of that pressure of LeBron, reduce him into the role that you kind of pointed out right now, and say that this is exactly what you want. He's an innings eater. He's a guy who's going to pound the hell out of the ball for 82 games this season. And then when it matters the most in the playoffs, LeBron takes over the way he has throughout his whole career. He becomes a dominant player. He's on ball. He's creating offense for others and taking over games. And then it's Westbrook who has to make that adjustment. We've seen that from him to some degree in stretches here and there, particularly when he was with the Rockets a few years ago. I don't know how likely he is to embrace that role nowadays, but that's exactly what's expected of him because this is and always will be LeBron's team. You go to him, you go to Anthony Davis, and then to some degree, Russell Westbrook.
Maybe you're right. We'll find out as these games go on. But that will do it for us today. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On NBA wherever you listen to podcasts for 30 minutes of the NBA's top stories every day. We'll be back here next Tuesday. In the meantime, you can find both of us over at Locked On Heat. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. And make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 daily fantasy basketball show on the planet. It's free. It's available on all platforms.